What's going on, guys? Danny here from Metal Couch, and today we're going to be talking about a classic album that I'm surprised I have not gotten to yet on this channel. You've probably seen me wear the shirt for this album before, but today we're going to be talking about the second album from Canada's Razor, Evil Invaders. Now, Evil Invaders was introduced to me by friend of the show Vince a few years ago, and with their announcement that they're going to be at Maryland Death Fest 2015, it sparked an idea that leading up to that festival, I should go through and look at the majority of the bands that are listed on the roster and at least review one album from them. Once I saw Razor was listed, I immediately got excited because I love this album. This album to me is something that initially I did not really like. I felt that the production wasn't exactly up to snuff for the stuff at the time. I mean, you gotta keep in mind, 1985, what have we got going on here? We've got Ride the Lightning going on with Metallica, one of my favorite album from them, and probably one of the last good ones that they even came out with. I mean, thrash at this point in time in the 80s is starting to have a nice emergence through metal. And I feel like when it comes to discussing thrash with people, maybe I'm just discussing it with the wrong people, Razor doesn't necessarily get the credit that they deserve. This album begins with an instrumental called Nowhere Fast, and the only way that I can describe this song is a semi going completely out of control, destroying everything in its path, and will eventually hit a nice brick wall that leads into Cross Me Fool, which opens up lyrically with "Up your ass right here, right now." First words I ever heard from this band, and the sound really backs up that little remark. Evil Invaders production-wise is very much on the bassy side. Their guitar tone is very, very loud. It's on the low end, and then their high notes still have a very bassy feel to them. It gives the album a sense of power, almost an uncontrollable power. And that, to me, having this album grow on me, just is an awesome sound. And my only complaint for the album is that the lead guitarist has this tendency to, in random songs, do the same type of tremolo squeal, which, if you've listened to the album, you probably know what I'm talking about. For example, I believe at the beginning of the song Speed Merchants, there is drums entering in, ba-ba-da-da-ba-da-da, and then all of a sudden, boo, that kind of stuff. It happens frequently in this album, and it used to annoy the hell out of me, but now I'm just completely used to it. I love the production of this album now. I love the guitar tone of it, and their vocalist is probably one of the most underrated in thrash metal, in my opinion. He's no longer in the band, but that man has some pipes. For examples of that, just listen to the end of Cutthroat, or the title track, Evil Invaders. Some of my favorite tracks off the album are Cross Me Fool, the title track Evil Invaders, Cutthroat, Speed Merchants, and Iron Hammer. You know what? In fact, everything off of this album is a good track. This is an extremely solid album. I would even go as far as to say this is a completely excellent album. To put it up into the 9.0 range easily. Unfortunately for me, somebody who likes to acquire physical copies of albums, this album has not been reissued recently and is very expensive to acquire. Which is why, if anybody who's within Razor or has ties to Razor and their distribution, I would really like to get my hands on a physical copy of Evil Invaders, maybe an anniversary edition, something like that. I really want to buy a physical copy of this album, but unfortunately, it's either way too expensive or just non-existent at all. Razor, to me, is a band that, although I've only listened to one full-length album and then miscellaneous tracks here and there from various things such as Shotgun Justice, Razor, to me, is a great, underrated thrash band. Just from listening to this second album of theirs, I believe that they're underrated within the community, but then again, as I said before, that's probably just who I'm talking to. I mean, I mention Razor and nobody knows who I'm talking about except for a friend of the show, Vince, who introduced me to them. This band deserves more credit, especially for an album like this, and I hope an expanded edition comes out someday, or a reissue. I don't care. I just want a physical copy of this album. If I had to give this album a grade out of 10, 9.75. And I'm only taking 0.25 off for the fact of the trim squeals, which have slightly grown on me. They are not as annoying as they once were. Evil Invaders is a masterpiece, and I encourage anybody who enjoys thrash metal to go out and listen to it. Trust me, you will not regret it. Danny here from Metal Couch, signing out. Evil Invaders, just say